the world of accordions. It's a pleasure having Cyrus Brooks, engineer, public speaker, writer, educator. Good afternoon, and thank you, Cyrus.
Yes, good afternoon, and good to talk to you again. Really good to listen to you and all your great podcasts over the hundreds of
Thank you.
podcasts I guess you have done probably by now.
Yeah, that,
Um, yeah. Recent one I was listening to about the world supply.
uh-huh.
Uh, it's very good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You are part of this stuff. Thank you. Uh, Cyrus, policies and decisions go from one side to the other side without stopping. It's cycle, government cycle. They are on opposite sides. Let me show some examples to clarify what are we talking about. For instance, Argentina really wanted to be BRICS in the past.
Hmm.
Now, with the new president elected, it seems to avoid BRICS. So months later, the decision
Hmm.
they are avoiding. Brazil almost privatized Petrobras. Now it seems to want to nationalize more sectors with it. The US transferred its factories to China decades ago and now wants to be back in a hurry. So, my point for you, please. Uh, so, how to deal with these fluctuations?
Yes, that's a good question. I was just speaking to Dr. Brooks, also the founder of our company RBAC, and we have also this kind of fluctuation with natural gas production, and I'm sure oil as well. And you got the shales, and you got a lot of people very excited about producing stuff or even minerals like lithium. And speaking of Argentina, one of the promises or commitments or dreams of the new president was also to double the production of lithium. But what we get is I think we get everyone rushing to jump on the bandwagon, and then we get into oversupply, and then they get all these cutbacks, and maybe some people fall out of the race, and then we get an undersupply, and we get so there are these kind of ups and downs of just an oversupply, undersupply of these things as one factor. And certainly, part of our job in our company certainly has to do with watching the market and also seeing where the market will go. So I think that uh, what was it, as of a couple hundred years ago? I mean, starting with Adam Smith, and well, we're not really even starting with him, but really, I think he made some big leaps in the area, and with economists through the ages. I mean, we found that market-driven economics tends to be a better get better results, right? Than this kind of central planning approach. But I think that if we're not careful, even in the markets, you still get market distortions. You get kind of hidden subsidies or hidden you could say what's the term? It's not just the externalities or ignored externalities, although that can play a part. But when you get things in the market that make it all distorted, then we can't get proper signals. So let's take this Petrobras. I mean, basically, these guys are going to go in and they're going to nationalize and. But nationalization, I mean, depends on really how you do it, but generally speaking, at least in the Western case, we haven't had a very good results of government taking over and controlling. I
Yeah.
mean, look at the U.S., look at Amtrak, look at the U.S. Post Office. I mean, these all run at a loss. Like you can't, it's actually illegal to run a business at a loss unless you're the government, you know? So
Uh,
in the government, you can pretty much, burn your cash, just throw it in the dumpster or throw it in the incinerator, and you just tax people more money.
yeah.
So, so initially, I'd say, the part of the thing is we gotta, you know, whatever you're gonna do, you gotta kind of let the market happen, but also find out about these hidden influences like um, monopolies, subsidies, tax rents. I mean economic rents. Sorry. Where it's kind of distorting the market, and also, I mean, as much as climate change and other things are controversial, we do have to look at this concept of externalities, right?
Externalities.
For example, pollution in the environment is, especially in the past, was never paid for by anybody, except the people that were living in the area kind of got the bad effects of it.
Yeah.
And I think that is really where you're going to get into a lot of government intervention, because people are going to vote in. All you have to do is say, big bad oil or big bad this company or that company, and people will vote in a new person who's going to take some, I don't know, unilateral kind of action, which I wouldn't be surprised at all if it happened in Brazil. But you're right there, so you could probably even fill me in.
Yeah. Yeah. But Cyrus, your company is focused on data analytics and to support people to take decisions. In terms of natural gas, that you know that your company is very specialized in that. Uh,
Yes.
do you see this fluctuation? Do you see this kind of balance movement from one side to another side, or is more stable than other things? Natural gas.
I think that, currently, I mean, we are seeing that global demand is increasing so far, that certainly, um, a lot of this production. I mean, the production just is outrageous. The amount of, you talk about billions and billions of cubic feet. I think. Uh, Sorry, cubic meters, and per year. When you're talking about this much production, and that it's just increasing, and that we could just have these seemingly endless investments in new liquefaction and export terminals. How is this even possible? I mean, I think we are so underserved in the world that we're still able to, like a sponge, easily absorb all these, all these new, production capabilities, this new capacity. So I think the U.S. Is still in pretty good shape, and we're even able to get online new players like Guyana, Canada, and Mozambique, and there's even further new players. We were just talking about Argentina, and we're having a good look at the forever super development, which we're supposed to have, which is, of course, the famous dead cow, right?
Yeah.
Vaca de
That
Morte,
cow is,
right?
that cow is fantastic. Vaca muerta. Yeah. A
Yeah,
good
Vaca
translation.
Muerta. Right. And well, I guess you could say, I mean, they used to say in the US, right? They would say that, you like they talk about beating a dead horse, meaning it's already dead, right? Yeah. Why are
Yeah.
you doing it? Well, it's kind of funny, they've been beating this dead cow for a very long time, right? And but this is the fourth largest natural gas reserve in the world. So, but there is truth. I mean, if you eventually you keep getting this capacity online, eventually you are going to hit some kind of, well, I think you're gonna at least level off. But there are some. I'm going to tell you my gut feeling a little bit different than the scenarios and the outlooks. My gut feeling is that there are going to be some dark horses in this race. South America, Southeast Asia, and Africa. They are, well, Southeast Asia quite a bit more, but Africa and South America actually have a lot more growth that is possible. But kind of like what people talk about R&D with new energy technology, it's kind of, it happens when it happens, but I think that very well could happen with Africa. You could take, it could take off. And if you look at India, India is about 30 years behind China, but I just was writing about this the other day. If you look at India and you compare it and you just move their energy usage graph 30 years, you're at actually almost side by side with China, the same, right, progression. So, ironically, they have a lot more people, which actually, what it changes is, of course, it changes the energy mix. You're going to have a lot more in transportation with that many people compared to what China had 30 years ago. But still, it was a ginormous country, right? So
Right.
now, if you remember China, if you have a look at they actually are, kind of exponential here, or at least hyperbolic, if not parabolic, hopefully not. So what's going to happen when, 1 billion people in Africa start to follow suit? They get their infrastructure going, they get, their economies going, they get some stable, one would hope, some stable leadership in each of these countries that cares more about the people than their friends and their, all vested interests who perhaps got them there. And when that starts to happen, because look at every scenario, look at where Africa and South America are. They're always like, okay, and you got South Asia, or Asia's like this, right? So what's going to happen if things really start to change? Unless there's something really dramatic in the energy technologies, like nothing like what we have now, fusion or renewables, solving like a new kind of battery that would handle battery storage. Pretty much, then what are we left with? We're gonna. I suspect all that natural gas that is not going to Europe. I suspect there's going to be a huge growth in South America and Africa.
Without too much fluctuations. But let me ask you about investors. So when investors see this picture and see, for instance, for natural gas, that you have gas terminals and gas transformation to cryogenic ships.
Yes.
Are they, let's see, comfortable to invest, or are they afraid to invest? You said that the natural gas is growing very, very strongly, but
yes,
but maybe a big error.
Yeah. Well, I think, okay. There's two answers to that. One, there's again my gut feeling, and two, there's when you look truly at the outlooks that are pretty well, we're pretty well in agreement, even though you are getting growth in all areas of the world except for Europe, which we're seeing a decline, mostly based on policy and deindustrialization, right? So those two factors are making natural gas decline in Europe. But everywhere else is going to have an increase, and Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Asia, I'd say maybe Northeast Asia, China, is going to have a great increase. So we're still having a lot of energy usage. China's clearly doing its best to keep their show on the road, their economic show on the road. Whether they can do it with applying kind of this overarching strict government approach is another question, indeed. But I have a feeling that as we've seen, he will President Xi will tighten the grip on China, but he will loosen up if things don't start to come around. He has also shown that he would loosen things up, just like he did with COVID, right? Suddenly zero tolerance policy, and suddenly, hey, we beat COVID. Let's open everything up. Which okay, one could question that one, but I would suspect he would actually do the same to save the economics of the region. He would loosen it up a little bit, at least a little bit, just to allow enough to keep it going, or else all of China is going to have quite a tough time. But assuming that China can sort itself out, and the rest of Asia, I'd say you have enough strong growth. People in the global game will be just fine.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, going to the root cause of these fluctuations. For instance, political compositions with opponents in the Congress, and they are looking for consensus, and decisions in this case are very amorphous, without direction, because they
Yes.
is a composition with opposites. The sum is zero at the end. How do you see the West democracy model in terms of investments?
I see that a lot from what I see, and currently I'm in Johannesburg, and I've been here about a month. I came for Africa Energy Week, in the middle of October, and it was quite an eye opener. But it did tell me one thing, answering your question, which is I see government policy, but I do see also a lot of private enterprise trying to make it work, within a very difficult framework, within a difficult, structure and regulatory regime. There are a lot of private companies, throughout, mostly from the U.S., I would say, but of course, France has a lot of history here in Africa, and in some ways they're trying to make it better, like Total and Mozambique and other places. So I would say, yeah,
the UK too.
That's like, it does, like, you could see that the private enterprise, kind of quietly almost, and also smaller. One of the problems with all the big majors is, everything they do, kind of like a celebrity, every action they take is super, under the microscope. And I think in some ways, a lot of these smaller companies, they're not so small in the terms of market capitalization, but compared to these super majors, they are. But you got still big guys like Cosmos Energy and other guys having big projects here, and a lot of these smaller companies will have projects. Angola is hot, Equatorial Guinea, and all this kind of stuff. So I think almost under the radar, people are still trying to make it work. Even Europeans, despite all this, I don't know, they have this. There's a lot of, I dare say, hypocrisy. That they want to have their cake and eat it too. Like Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake. Well, that's what they're trying to do in Europe. They're trying to they want all the gas from Africa. They want even from Russia and all this kind of stuff. But they're kind of pretending that the emissions from all those other places don't count, and they're going to reduce gas, but not now. And they don't really care that they're rising. They're kind of pushing up the prices for everybody else and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they refuse to, they refuse to drill their own gas, which they could, but they would happy for other people to have all the environmental effects of drilling that gas. So I must say there's a bit of hypocrisy there, and I wish they would really look at that. But that's what I see with this. The government pushing one way. We talk about BRICS. We talk about COP28 or all the European members of parliament and all their actions and their calls to reduce gas, to their renewables targets, the green energy taxonomy, all this kind of stuff. In the end, I think it is very ideological. It's very political, and political people, unfortunately, unless you just get a miracle, and which is what they're hoping for in Argentina, by the way. But unless you're getting a real miracle, some superstar who has no care about himself, then your politics is all about it's like a social media star. You're trying for yourself. You're trying to make an impact. It doesn't matter what the impact is. You're just trying to make an impact so that you can maintain, your status. You can get reelected. You can, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Super cynical, I know, but when you really look at it, their actions aren't really like broad thinking for the majority of people. So if that's the case, then what are they doing?
Yeah. Going to the conclusions, in terms of energy investment, especially in the renewables, how do you see the comparison between West democracy politics and the lens of Xi Jinping and Putin that are very, very, let's see, constant? Do you see that they have advantages in terms of? Go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. First of all, we have to be pretty realistic. Like, okay, well, let's take the poorest countries. I mean, you're not seeing any kind of green energy revolution, and anywhere you are, you're also seeing a lot of international aid. And as one article pointed out, Financial Times or Wall Street Journal, I remember it was talking about an area of India where 90% of all community solar was totally not working. 90%. So there's my point here is that if the effort is to take care of the environment, and in this case we're talking about handling climate, well, just like the environment, any kind of climate resilience needs money, needs good economics. There is no place in the US, right, that is taking these broad measures that doesn't have tons of cash. I mean, look at the areas that are doing it like seriously. It's New York, New Jersey, Boston, California. I mean, all these places are, they have really incredible budgets. I mean, California has a country-sized budget in itself. And I'm not saying California is good or bad. I'm just saying the simple fact that if you want to take care of your environment, I mean, seriously, you need to have a good economics. So the idea that you could, we talk about renewable energy investment. I mean, properly done, I think maybe rooftop solar and individuals, I mean, these are great things for an individual who has the means to do it. Good for him. and I support energy independence even of an individual. But if you really, really care about, lower middle class, and the poor, because remember, the poor have to pay the same rate for electricity.
Yeah.
Look at areas that have high electricity prices, and all the ones I mentioned with these big renewables, even Texas, which jumped on the bandwagon of this big renewables. I mean, actually the prices are quite high. Um, well, there's other reasons, of course, market distortions and all this kind of stuff. But you know, uh, the problem is, you really need, before you have lots of clean and beautiful and everything like that, you need a lot of cash, right? So what you really should be doing is using energy to make better economics. That's what you should be doing. So look, investors in clean energy, of course, you can go for the areas like California and a bunch of other areas where there's a lot of subsidies, and that can look good. But if you really care about the long term, then I'd say you have to go for an area that is looking for really stable growth, that has a stable electricity grid. Some Scott Tinker, the head of the Department of Geology over at UT, University of Texas, he talked about, and a lot of people have mentioned this, energy additions. Like, don't think this as a transition. Think of these things as an addition.
One addition, yeah.
If it was me, I'd bank all my money I'd put all these things in R&D. I would never put these things in intermittent energy that doesn't have a stable way to
Production itself.
Yeah, I mean, every day, I mean, in the entire summer, almost every day between 6 and 9, Texas had a near blackout, and part of the reason is actually, I mean, it's undeniable. I mean, solar goes down, wind comes up, but not at the same time. That gap was causing it. And the reason why there is a gap is because even though they added natural gas, they retired coal at the same rate, and because of market distortions, the natural gas new facility they had, it was like called the Panda. Do you remember that? There was a new natural gas facility some years ago, but it could not make it economically. But that's partly because, I mean, if you have certain renewables can bid zero because of renewable production credits from the federal government, then they're going to have that's a market distortion. What can you say? Right. So
we have a provocative comment from Robert Di Domenico, please, for you. No climate crap without massive subsidy. You don't.
Yeah,
say.
I mean, but I just think, you could, at best, if you're going to be charitable, if you're going to be really kind, you could say that it was the cart before the horse. I mean, people were just like, you opened the gate and the horse was gone, right? And so so many people jumped in, and so many governments put all their money in on renewables. But I mean, as much as the prices have gone down, economies of scale and all that kind of stuff, the problem is that, they just never solve the problem of, intermittency, energy storage, and also excess. Like, they get into excess, and what happens if you get more? You get more, then you're going to get what? You're going to get the cannibalization, right? You're going to get new ones are going to eat into the profits of the other ones, because there's no more room. So
that's right.
It's pretty tough, it's a pretty tough thing. But there you
Cyrus,
go.
Yeah, Cyrus, please see if you agree with my statement. So fluctuation will be with us forever. First part.
Yes.
Second, investors try to protect your investments doing what? I'm not sure what can they do to protect their investments. How can they see in a long term in a so, let's see, fluctuation future? So I would like to see your thoughts to
Yeah, I mean,
conclusions.
certainly, I mean, I've had it differentiated one way for me. Of course, you have a energy trader or a natural gas trader, is basically a very, very, very short term investor, right? So, by definition, I guess you could say real investors, are looking at the long term. And by itself, that's gonna handle, some of the fluctuations. As you remember, just when the Gorgon and the other unit over LNG facilities over in Australia, almost 10% of production were threatened to drop. The prices spiked in Europe pretty well instantaneously. And of course, traders are quick to jump in, sell, and then it all kind of worked itself out in the end. There was maybe just a little bit of effect, and there may be some price change. I mean, with obviously costs changing due to new agreements, but in the end, what you need is you need a good tool, a good outlook, which is going to give you a variety of looks based on different scenarios. So I think that's what RBAC is all about. For us, the way we look at it, it's like some things you cannot predict, right? I mean, like the war between Israel and Palestine. I mean, these are shocks, right? And there won't really be any software that's going to predict these things, at least not that I can imagine in the near future. Anyway, but what you want is you want a software, and you want to basically to have a variety of outlooks to look at various scenarios that could happen, so that you can then, as they say, hedge your bets or hedge your investments against certain risks. So one of the things that RBAC does, we do actually make some of our outlooks freely available in something called our visual analytics. It's called Insights, and we do have these freely available on rbac.com, if you don't mind me to say it.
Sure.
And just looking at the visual analytics on the menu, you can find these free visualizations for either North America or for the global market. And this is the kind of thing you can do. So if you have, say, you're thinking more bullishly that actually, perhaps this is my gut feeling, by the way,
Sure.
bullishly, that Europe actually is going to start to abandon some of these net zero kind of plans, or at least moderate them. Like they might tone them down a bit, because I mean, deindustrialization is happening,
Very
and
fast.
the effects are not going to be instantaneous. They're going to start to feel them, and then what's going to happen? Then people are going to vote, and they very well, just like Argentina, can vote out these parties, and you're going to get a change, right? And if enough happens throughout Europe, I mean, you could see major change in Europe, at least to moderate these policies to be more, say, economically friendly, supporting their economics, their industry, and so forth. So that's a little bit my gut feeling. And what you would do, you see, with this scenario analysis is, you would look at that. If you're bullish more on Europe, you see now we're talking about a demand that isn't so, in such decline. Because currently with their policies, we do see a long-term decline. But what happens if those policies change? Well, that's what the scenario analysis can do. And certainly if you're in South America and you're looking at Argentina, the big question,
No doubt.
and actually we're in the middle of writing an article on this, is
What can happen?
what's going to happen? Will we privatize, right? The National Oil and Gas Company, right?
Yeah, right.
YPT,
Yeah.
I think. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much. There was a topic a little bit abstract sometimes, but a little bit focused on energy and gas energy and data analytics, as you are a specialist for that. Thank you so much, Cyrus Brooks.
Very happy to join you, and I hope to see you again.
No doubts. It will be a pleasure for me too. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cyrus. You are
Great.
not yet.